On Mother's Day morning, I was sitting in my car outside the phone store, setting up my wife's gift, when her text messages started loading onto the new phone, one right after another. I was not snooping. I was doing the thing the guy at the counter tells you to do. Sign into the account, restore the backup, so the phone is ready to go out of the box. She had been talking about that phone since February. I wanted to hand it to her working. We share the family storage plan. I pay for it every month, and her password is the dog's name and the year we got married, same as everything else in the house. So I signed in off the hotspot on my own phone. The little wheel spun, and her whole life started coming down onto that phone while I sat there in the parking lot with the radio on. And before anybody asks, no code, no two-step, nothing. I set that account up for her years ago, and she never let me turn any of that on, said all it ever did was lock her out of her own stuff. The kids had already called that morning. We have two, a son and a daughter, both grown, both living out of state, about a 9-hour drive from us. They call their mother every Mother's Day around breakfast, one after the other, and she talks to them out on the porch with her coffee. That is what was happening at the house while I was in that parking lot. The messages finished loading, and I was doing one last check before I wiped my thumbprints off the screen, and near the top of her messages, there was a name from her office, a woman she works with. I have met this woman at 2 Christmas parties, and under that name, the little preview line said, "I miss you already. Now you have to understand something about us first. In 21 years, I have never gone through her phone, and she has never gone through mine." That was a point of pride with me. So what happened next was not a habit. It was that one line sitting there. Well, women say that to each other, I told myself. My wife runs the front desk at a dental practice 3 days a week, and the office ladies are close, and I tried to believe that for about 10 seconds. Then I opened the thread. It was not the woman from her office. It was a man, and it went back months. I sat in my car in that parking lot on Mother's Day, and I scrolled back past Valentine's Day and Christmas all the way to before Thanksgiving, and the thread just kept going. Hotel confirmations forwarded and deleted, except deleted off your phone is not deleted out of the backup, and the backup is what I was holding. Plans, months of plans, complaints about me, some of them things I had said in my own bedroom. There was a bracelet in there too. Back in March, she came home with a bracelet and told me her sister sent it for her birthday, and I remember thinking that was generous because her sister still owes us $400 from 3 Christmases ago. The bracelet was in the thread. He picked it out. She sent him a picture of it on her wrist at my dining table. And in the background of that picture, you can see my hand and my coffee cup. I was in the frame, and a plan for that coming Monday, the day after Mother's Day, lunch at the same place as always, his place after. And listen, if you have never scrolled through something like that with your own thumb, I hope you never do. I want to be straight about what that feels like. It does not feel like anger at first. My stomach knotted up, and it stayed in a knot for about a week. 26 years together, 21 of them married, and I found out in a parking lot with a gift bag on the passenger seat and tissue paper and a card I had already signed. Here is what I did, and I am not saying it was easy. I took pictures of that screen with my phone. The worst of it, the hotel stuff, the Monday plan, the stretch going back to before Thanksgiving, maybe 40 pictures. My hands were not steady. Then I finished setting up her Mother's Day present, wiped the screen clean on my shirt, put it back in the box, and drove home. She was still on the porch. She waved at me through the window with her coffee cup. I took her to dinner that night, her favorite place, the seafood house out by the lake. Halfway through dinner, I slid the box over to her, and she did the whole thing. hand over the mouth, eyes wet, said I was too good to her. She posted a picture of the phone with the caption, "Spoiled Rotten." And while we were waiting on dessert, her old phone buzzed in her purse, and she took one look at it and flipped it face down next to the bread plate and patted my hand and said, "Nothing important." On Mother's Day, at the table where I had just given her a gift, I sat across from her and I smiled and I ate my fish, and I have no idea how. My daughter called me that evening to ask how the phone had gone over, because she had helped me pick the color back in April. I gave her 2 minutes of it, she loved it, and got myself off the phone. And here is the question that kept me up that night. How many dinners like that had we already had? Because I only know about the ones after I found out. I did not confront her. I know most men would have flipped the table right there, and I understand it, believe me. But I had pictures of a phone screen and a hunch she was up to no good. And a marriage this long is not a thing you swing at half blind. I filed it away and I watched. Monday came, the day after Mother's Day. She left at 1:45 in a dress I had not seen since Easter, said the girls from the office were doing a lunch. She came back at 4:30 with her hair different. I asked how the girls were, easy as anything, and she gave me a whole lunch. Who ordered what? Who is fighting with her husband? How they got seated too close to the swinging door in the back, and the food smell got in her hair. That is why she washed it. She handed me that last part before I ever asked about her hair. She was over-explaining, and I just shook my head in agreement. Here is the thing, though. The next Monday, I had a stop about a mile from her office, so I swung past a dental practice around noon. The lot was empty and the lights were off, and there was a little sign on the door I must have looked at 100 times without reading it. Closed Mondays. That office has been closed on Mondays for as long as she has worked there, for I do not know how long. Every office lunch she told me about had landed on a day that office is locked. Now, you tell me what an office lunch looks like on the one day of the week the office is locked. Wednesday that week she was normal, cooked spaghetti, laughed at the TV. That was almost the worst part, how normal she could be. You start wondering how long she had been that good at it. Here is some background. I am 54. I cover a sales territory for a surgical supply company. 3 states, gone a few nights a month, and I have done it 30 years. It is a good living. My wife works those 3 days at the dental office, mostly to have somewhere to be. The house is paid down to almost nothing. There is a pension through my company, and both kids finished school with no loans because I started saving when they were in diapers. I am not telling you that to brag. I am telling you because all of it was about to be on a table with her lawyer on one side of it. Now hold on, because this next part is the part that changed everything, and she did it to herself. About 3 weeks after Mother's Day, I wasn't saying much at dinner one night, and she put her fork down and asked what my problem had been lately. I said I was tired from the road, and she said, and I will remember this word for word until they put me in the ground. She said, whatever this attitude is, you better think hard, because if this marriage goes sideways, I will take the house, I will take half that pension, and you will be writing me a check every month for the rest of your life. My sister already had a lawyer walk her through it. 21 years, honey. Do the math. I did not say one word back. I cleared my plate, rinsed it, and told her she was probably right about my attitude. And the next morning, I called in a personal day and sat down with the divorce lawyer because I did not want my car seen anywhere near a law office in our town. I put the pictures on his desk, printed at a drugstore kiosk, paid cash. He went through them slow, no expression, the way a man reads a parts invoice. Then he asked me 2 questions. He asked if she had a lawyer yet, and I said, not that I knew of, just her sister's advice. And he asked how much of my income she lived on, and I told him the honest number, which was most of it. Then he explained something to me about the state we live in, and I am going to pass it along plain because I did not know it, and maybe you do not either. Where we live, adultery is not just a sad story. It is a bar to spousal support. If you can prove your spouse cheated and the standard is high, the phrase he used was clear and convincing evidence. If you can prove it to that standard, the court does not award them alimony. There is one narrow exception, he said, where cutting them off would be a manifest injustice. And he looked at my numbers and her numbers and said, that is not this. And he said, the part she had right is that 21 years with her part-time income would normally mean open-ended support, $3,000, maybe $4,000 a month, indefinitely. Her sister's lawyer was not wrong. My wife just did not know what I had in a folder, but he was straight with me about the pictures too. He said, these tell me what is happening, but a screen photographed at one sitting from a backup, her lawyer will fight over how you got it and what it proves. Clear and convincing means we document it happening, present tense, third party, which brought us to the investigator. His office used a retired sheriff's deputy, a quiet guy about my age, who also had a military background, $1,150 a week. And the lawyer said most of these wrap up in 3 or 4 weeks because these people are creatures of habit. Mine ran 4 weeks, $4,600, and it turned out to be the easiest money anybody ever earned because she kept every single Monday appointment like it was church. 4 Mondays, the same lunch place, then the same townhouse, her car in the same visitor spot. 3, sometimes 4 hours. The investigator had her going in, coming out, the man in the doorway. Week 2, she stopped at a car wash on the way home and just sat in her car, and the deputy wrote in his notes, and I quote, subject appears to be composing herself, and I do not know why that line hit me the way it did. Week 3, they walked to the mailbox together, and the man kissed her at the end of the driveway in the middle of the afternoon like they were 20. On the 4th week, I was gone overnight for work in one of my other states, and her car sat in that visitor spot until 6 the next morning. She had texted me that night, sleep good, love you, at 10:40. The deputy's log had her at the townhouse at 10:40. I met him once at a diner when it was done. He slid a folder over to me, and it was thick, and he drank his coffee while I went through it. And the only thing he said the whole time was, I have done a couple hundred of these, and it is always almost the same day of the week, all of it time-stamped, all of it in a report with a cover page, the most boring-looking thing you ever saw. The man was nobody I knew, divorced, mid-50s, sells insurance. The name she had him saved under belonged to a real woman at her office, which means she picked her cover with some thought. That is the detail that finished it for me, honestly, more than the hotels. She had put real thought into the cover. We filed on a Friday morning. My lawyer had the papers ready on a Wednesday, and I went through every page in his conference room, and I signed. He asked me one last time if I was sure I did not want to confront her first, give her a chance to come clean. Some men need that. I told him she had her chance to come clean every single day since Mother's Day, and she never took it. He gave me a thumbs up, and that was the end of that conversation. She got served that Friday afternoon at the house, and I know the timing worked because I was not there. I was 300 miles away on purpose, and my phone started going off at 10 after 4, 20-some calls that evening. I answered none of them. The last voicemail was not crying, it was the other thing, and in it she said, word for word, you have no idea what this is going to cost you. The 2 weeks after, the server went how you would guess. Her sister, the one whose lawyer started this whole education, sent me a text as long as a church bulletin about what a coward I was, doing this to a good woman, and I did not answer that either. Her mother called my son and told him I had lost my mind. My wife herself went from screaming voicemails to sweet ones inside of 6 days, and the last one before the lawyers took over completely said, "We can fix this. People make mistakes. I never stopped loving you." Her mother and her sister made those calls, believing I had blown up a marriage over an attitude, because that is a story they had. My wife knew better. She just did not think I could prove any of it, and she packed a bag for her sister's place the week after the serve and never really moved back. I kept the house until it sold. Now watch how fast 21 years of leverage can disappear. Her lawyer, a real one now, not her sister's advice, opened up exactly the way my lawyer said they would. Big support demand, $3,500 a month. Letters with a lot of Latin in them. My lawyer did not argue on paper. He waited for the settlement conference, and when her side got to the support number, he took out the investigator's report and his photographs and slid them across, and then he put the statute on the table next to them, the actual page, with the adultery line marked in yellow. They asked for a recess. It was not a long one, maybe the time it takes to drink a cup of coffee. Through the wall of the conference room, you could hear exactly one voice, hers, going up, and one voice staying level, her lawyer's, and then it got quiet. When they came back, she would not look at me, and her lawyer talked to my lawyer like I was not in the room, which suited me fine. The support demand was gone, not reduced, just gone. My lawyer told me afterward that her attorney knew the second he touched that report, because in this state, against that evidence, there was nothing to argue with. The exception did not apply, and everybody in the room knew it. 21 years, and the alimony conversation was over in about 10 minutes. Now, I'm going to be honest about the rest, because this is not a fairy tale, and you should know how it actually goes. The house we sold and split because it was marital, and that is the law no matter who did what. She got her share of the pension that built up during the marriage, because that is the law too. The adultery did not take her half away, and anybody on the internet who tells you the cheater walks out with nothing is selling something. What it took away was the check, the every month rest of my working life check that she stood in my dining room and promised me. That check does not exist. The divorce was final in 7 months. She moved into an apartment about 15 minutes from that townhouse, and I will let you do your own math on that. Then came the part I had thought about longer than any of it. The kids. All through the case, they only knew the safe version, that their mother and I were splitting up, and it was grown folks' business. She had been calling them both, working on the story early, telling them people grow apart. Marriages just end sometimes. My daughter called me crying one night, asking why I would throw away 21 years over nothing. And it took everything I had to say, "Honey, it is more complicated than that, and leave it alone." Because I promised my lawyer, and I promised myself, nothing goes to those kids until the decree has a stamp on it. They were not going to be dragged through it while the case was still open. The week after it was final, I flew out there. Both kids live in the same city, 3 states away. My son has a house now. I sat at his dining table with the 2 of them, no spouses, no grandkids, and I told them the truth with no decoration on it. When it started, how I found out, and that I had known since Mother's Day and sat on it. I did not show them everything. They are grown, but she is still their mother, and they did not need to see the pictures. My son got very quiet, which is what he does. My daughter cried, and then she said something I was not ready for. She said, "That is why you sounded like that on the phone on Mother's Day." She had heard it in my voice back on day 1 and carried it around for months, not knowing what it was. They both still talk to their mother. I never asked them not to, and I never will. That was the whole point of waiting. She and the insurance man did not last, by the way. The kids tell me he was gone within the year. Apparently, it was different once they could see each other whenever they wanted. That is not my problem to sort out. And the woman from her office, the real one, whose name had been sitting in my wife's phone as a cover story for God knows how long, she found out during the case because pinning down those Mondays meant the practice got papers about the office schedule and her name was in them, and word got around that office inside a week. I am told she did not take it well, and I am told the front desk of that dental practice got very cold, and my wife does not work there anymore. She works at a different office now. This Mother's Day, 1 year later, the kids called her in the morning like they always have, because she is their mother and that does not change. Then the two of them got on a plane and they spent the whole weekend at my place. We grilled in the backyard and my son fixed the gate latch with me and nobody brought any of it up. Sunday afternoon, my daughter asked me why I never got mad the whole time, all those months, and I told her the truth. I told her I did all my getting mad that first morning in the car, and by the time I walked back in the house, there was none of it left. Well, in my opinion, in a situation like this, keep your cool. You might get lucky. Depending on the state you live in, the divorce might come out in your favor. But I always preach, keep your cool. Don't resort to violence. If you let your emotions dictate your movements, you can lose a lot. And for someone who is cheating on you, they are not worth it. See you in the next one.